I'm going to talk about three things that you should know about your ascension journey. And number one is to know that you're having it. We all do. Now, we may not think of that because we have typically thought of it maybe as some religious thing or ascended masters or whatever, but as humans, we all ascend. Wherever we're born, we all ascend, and we do that through consciousness. Now, how we may accomplish that is different for each person, and that is a choice that we make. But it is a process of coming to a greater understanding of who we are. That's the first thing to know. And then the other thing that you want to know right now is that the entire planet is doing the same thing. And all of it is energy. It is the energy that is within us and the energy that is collected in our world. And then we have a result of how the world is created. These are things that we learn over time in our civilization and within ourselves. And my journey has been taking myself through an ascension journey, but I did it in a very different way because I sat and I did it every day. I wrote, I received cosmic information, and that's how I changed. Now, not everyone will do it in that way. But because I've done it in that way and I know what it does for you, this is how I've created all of my work, because we have to use what we know to be effective, and that is our brain, our neuroscience, to change what has been happening. And then the second thing you should know is that it's uncomfortable at times because we don't want to look inside and see what we have been withholding about ourselves or not understanding about our world. But when we decide to do that, the uncovering is a step-by-step process. We don't get there right away. And the other thing is we're never done with it. As long as we're alive in physical form, we can ascend to a higher state of understanding of who we are. There's different levels of different dimensions, and we can choose to live in different ones, but that is also a cognitive process that each of us will move through. And then you must understand that you exist at a time where the energies of our world are very intense. We have never done anything like this. So you're going to understand that you are going to be moved. You may be experiencing all kinds of things. You don't know who you are. You feel lost. You have no purpose. And that's probably a great thing because it means that you're also letting go of what was old. And that's what happens when we ascend to a higher understanding of who we are. And then what starts to happen once you do that, you start to heal. You start to let go of your trauma. And then you can actually have physical healing because now you're in touch with your authentic self, why you were born, why you were in the world, because everyone has that. But you also must understand not everyone will do that. And because they are living a life path, these other people are living a life path where they're not going to be willing to look at the lower vibrational energies that they have carried around probably for years and years and years, or we inherited from our ancestors and we could still be carrying that, but not everyone will let go of it. So this is why we have conflict. This is why we will have wars. And so when I created my work, I knew what was coming. I'm a mystic, I'm a sage, so I knew how the world was going to start shaping up because we can also look at the energies of our galaxies and see that things are changing. We have configurations that have never occurred, but we start to understand that we are all affected by the energies of our planet. And they move us in ways that we sometimes don't understand. You might start having all sorts of physical things happening in your body. There's so many of them. You can look up many videos that talk about ascension symptoms because you may be having them. And that is because our bodies are changing as the earth is changing. And we have some slower flashes. We have all kinds of energies that are happening. And so you're going to be moved into not knowing who you are at times. And some people might be experiencing, I put out information about the dark night of the soul, where you just feel you're just in darkness, you're in blackness, you don't know what's going on. I've had many of those. That's why I published a video about it. And I want everyone to understand the process. Because when you come out the other side, you're a different person. You start to understand who you are. You start to love yourself. You start to heal. And all of this is what I've done. And this is why I've created my work. But I wanted to explain what the work is about because I wanted you to understand what you're moving through. Now, you will do it, maybe do it a different way, whatever you choose to do. But I know that the best way is to do something that's consistent. We know that from neuroscience. We can't change the neural pathways that we have created or allowed to stay in our thinking that keeps us stuck. We can't change it unless we're willing to look at it. And that's the first difficulty, because most of us do not want to look inside because we've formed habits of thinking we're insignificant, we're not enough, we don't have any talent, we have no, whatever it might be. And that never stops, because see, even if you've been really successful in your life, if you've created a lot of money, then you're still at a place where you're being hit with this next level that you want to go to, and you may have doubt about that. I had tons of it, and I had so many different careers, so I do understand. But it is about moving through each of these places within your journey, because it's individual, it's unique, and it's yours. And once you start to do that, the miraculous things that happen will probably surprise you. But the other part of this, and why I decided to move in this direction several years ago, because I also know that the more people who become willing to look at themselves, heal, move through all the old stuff, letting go of what didn't work, letting go of any ideologies, anything that was of a lower vibrational essence, when we let go of that, collectively, we create a very different world. But not all of us will do that. This is why I've said that and this goes along with the science of all of it as well, is that we're going to be moving through these times for more than a year from now, because that's what the energies are showing us. And then we are not going to all operate in concert to move to the higher state of understanding of who we are. So that's why it has to be an individual choice. And when you make that choice, you will start to see that you will have more peace. And this is when you find who you're meant to be. A lot of people ask me, well, what's my life purpose? And I always say you're walking in it. But the problem is we don't understand the blockages that have been there in our programming and our consciousness that have prevented us from finding, owning, and loving that purpose. And that's what all of my work is about. But this is the process that everyone is moving through now in our world. And when they get really resistant to doing that, then we're going to have a lot of anger, and we'll have hatred. We'll have all the old, because it's the old things that are coming up for release. And that's what you might be experiencing. But I wanted to talk about this because I needed people to understand the work that I'm doing, because it's about you becoming happy. It's about you moving through all of that so you can create a productive, successful, prosperous life in whatever career that is right for you, whatever vocation, because you will find it. And this is the work that we are all doing, and people are discovering who they are and what they really want to do, instead of all the old programming that kept them stuck, because that's typically what happens. When we stay in uncomfortable situations, it's because we're really afraid of the unknown. And right now, the entire globe is afraid of the unknown because we don't know what it's going to be. But what I do know is that it's all created energetically. So the more of us who decide to lift up ourselves, love who we are, get on with moving through all the old stuff, then we start to create a very different world. And that's why I'm doing this work. But I wanted you to understand what you might be experiencing and what you're going to see in our world, because it's going to happen. We're going to keep changing. We're not going back to anything that was before. If you're thinking that the world could, that life that you wanted to have, that you thought was going to be permanent, that's not coming back. But it's better, because there's so much more for us to do, to create, to manifest, if we start to love ourselves and move through all the old stuff. And it just depends on how many people are willing to take that journey. And I do hope that it's you. All right. See you soon.